Good morning. Thank you for coming. It's such an honor to be here today because this is my first opportunity to be in Texas, reaching out to you people who are really making the difference for keeping riders safe. And I've been to many national meetings and other states, but this is my first time in Texas. Thank you, Kathy, for giving me an opportunity to be here, not only giving a presentation later this afternoon, and also an opportunity for me to do this keynote speak. I will cover some of the statistics from Texas and some national data, because I totally understand we all got into motorcycle riding because the passion for riding, but it is also very important to look at the facts and make sure that we make the best educated decision when we do our work or having fun out there, because this is what we need to deal with when we are able to think rationally before we get into all the fun. So let's get started here. Basically, like in most other states, the motorcycle ridership and activity is actually on a slow downward trending. And here are the data from Texas motorcycle registration. And thanks, Kathy and her research staff to have this number for me to create this chart. So it's a slope towards a smaller number of vehicles on the road. But on the other side, from the crash data, Texas numbers are not looking good. It's on the upward trend for the last 4 years. So what this tells us is that there's more work for us all to do, as the challenge is getting bigger. And there are many reasons behind all these crash numbers, as we all know, since you're all professionals. And a lot of them are very similar, like in other type of crashes. And that is related fatalities to alcohol use and speeding. Those are also involving all the other types of crashes, but because the nature of motorcycling, you don't have that much fender and bender and improved vehicle safety to really cut down the edges of these fatality numbers. So one of those measures for reducing the risk of fatality and injury is safety equipment. And number one is helmet use. So this number is based on the data collected by Texas DOT. The yellow color in the column indicate those who died in motorcycle-related crashes without helmet on. And you see the whole column moving up is coinciding with the previous slide of total fatalities. So about every day, at least a little bit more than one is the number that we're losing the riders in Texas alone. And this is NHTSA data. It also shows that the helmet use is not very high, because we all know that only 18 states has mandatory helmet use law, and all the other states has relatively relaxed mandate on this safety equipment. So Texas number actually looks a little better. Texas number I remember is about 40% of the fatality numbers not using helmet, and the national data is 46%. This also shows the motorcyclist injury on body part. And head injury is very pronounced here, because you got the third, except the legs, we all know, is the number one injury section for the body part, but head injury is a lot more serious. So if you add the 22% and the 18%, it's quite high as well. Here is also the national trend for fatalities. So it's going up. So what we can do is at least, understand the risk of injury and fatality is increasing in Texas and nationally. So our challenge is getting more steep, because proportionally, motorcyclist-related fatalities and injury is growing as a percentage of the total national and local injury and fatalities. It's a very small number of the vehicles on the road, and considering the two-wheel vehicle. But it takes over multiple times of the total percentage. I think the national is about 17% now. So the total national fatality, traffic fatality, is consisting of motorcycle-related, whereas the total number of vehicle on the road or the registered rider and licensed driver is considerably lower. I think it's about 3%. So, since I've been with Snell for so many years, I've been living in California for 30 years, so following what Matt was saying, I don't know how serious you take my presentation here, but I did live in New York for 10 years. I don't know if that helps. But anyway, I think the point I want to make here today is that with the increased risk of injury and fatality related to motorcyclists, let's pay attention to what we could do before we even turn on the ignition and get on the road. It's safety first. Put on a helmet and put on all the safety gears to make sure we have done what we can to minimize those risks. And before, our skills and our luck all run out, at least there's another countermeasure that could make a difference. So I hope you all get an opportunity in this meeting to share your experiences and your expertise, because it really matters. And what I can contribute here today is what I know about helmets and how helmets can make a difference. And I will have a chance to do a breakout session later today, and I'll just give you a really brief run-up to that. So basically, motorcycle helmets are effective in preventing fatality in at least 37% cases. And this is based on NHTSA's study, the FARS data. Basically, they compare the fatality rate among the riders with and without helmets and the outcome in the crash. In preventing injury, I forgot to mention the passengers actually gets a little bit higher numbers. I guess a lot involved on the position of the people on the vehicle, even though it's an open vehicle. And all these numbers, like Nancy mentioned, are real people. They all have families and friends and coworkers. And every one of those are going to not just leave this life, you know, that they could have make more differences themselves, but also leaving an open wound and scar for the families and friends. And so what we can do is really going to make an impact not on these people themselves, but also on the extended social impact. And I want to bring attention to the number that could have been saved. And that's a national number. And look at what the number could be for Texas. That's over 100 people that could have been saved if all the riders in Texas use a helmet while they ride. So let's get to what I am here with the main message, is what Snell has been doing in the last over 26, I'm sorry, that's what I was doing. Snell. Snell Foundation is a lot more older. Right. Snell Foundation was established in 1957, a year after Pete William Snell died of an auto racing crash in Arcata, California. He was Racer of the Year for the Sports Car Club of America, and very young, and got married recently before the crash happened. And basically the car overturned, and back then those open cockpit cars didn't even have the bar on the top. So basically he got head injury in this rollover accident. And that was the helmet that he had. State of the art back then, it's basically cardboard box paper inside, bounded with leather for style. And inside is just a suspension system like today's industrial hard hat for airflow. So as you can see from today's view, this helmet is totally, utterly useless in giving him any protection. So Snell Foundation was established because there was a Snell Memorial Fund donated by the Pete Snell's friend and the members of SCCA. And Dr. George Snively on the board of SCCA at the time was already investigating helmet effectiveness and how it could be better if there's a way of evaluating it and recommend some better ones to everybody. So here is a chart that you can see that kind of moves on to explain the development of these helmets that Snell Standard moved on from auto racing first. The first standard came out in 1959 for auto racing, and the style of it is very much like the open face three-quarter helmets that we are familiar with today. And a lot of motorcyclists caught the idea, and why not get some protection for ourselves, even though those helmet was used on auto racing tracks. So the earliest Snell standard was just an addendum to the auto racing helmet standard. And it went on, more people just started to use motorcycle helmets because they have good sense that these products really can make a difference. Until 1974, the federal government, DOT, issued what we know now, the FMSS 218. There wasn't any motorcycle helmet standard in this country. But actually, when Snell was established in 1957, there wasn't any helmet evaluating standard at all in this whole country. So Snell is the oldest helmet safety organization in the United States, and today still remains the leader on the world stage in terms of setting high performance standard for helmet. And we are a nonprofit organization from the beginning until today, and really hasn't enlarged the mission except making helmet evaluating standard for the helmet's performance and advocate for the helmet use. So over the years, since 1980, the motorcycle helmet standard has been updated every 5 years because Snell tests helmets from all over the world, made from Germany, France, Italy, later Japan, Korea, China, United States. And we have seen the best among all the manufacturers, what is capable in terms of design, material use, and always try to update the standard so that the bar is raised for more protection. And current standard has been effective since October last year, and helmets with this label inside are in the market now for 2025. The DNR is an indication that the helmet is in compliance with DOT or ECE regulation 2206. The reason to have two standards is because there are enough technical differences and incompatibility between those two government standards that Snell wants to squeeze out all we can to be compliant with these government jurisdiction rules, and also the most that protection could be made available. Because a helmet that meets the ECE standard may not get all the way to meet the Snell standards and meet the DOT requirements. I'm going to play a video here. Let's see how we get this going. You can see a traditional linear impact. And this is how a helmet is, let me see. This is how a helmet is hoisted up in the chimney drop tower to impact different surfaces. So the dummy inside can be measured and see how much energy force is transmitted through the helmet structure. And we have a cutoff line. Over a certain number is pass or fail. And all these helmet samples have to be in cold, like -20, and hot, 120 degrees for temperature control sample test, and wet or room temperature for normal other environmental conditions, so that different materials would be ruled out for the test outcome. The lab is open for anybody to visit, so if you happen to be in Northern California, we are in Sacramento suburb, and you're welcome to have a lab tour. Seeing it in person is quite kind of a impressive experience, because you can actually see from such a loud, explosive-like impact, the helmet actually did its job. And that's what we do. We really just use these systematic, comprehensive testing to demonstrate in these circumstances the helmets can do its job, and we hope the crash that the riders are involved in is within these limits provided by the helmets. And those are the helmets that we recommend to the general public through our website. There's a complete listing on which helmet by its size and model name have the current Snell certification. So helmet standards are just documents with requirements explaining what kind of test is going to be done, how it's done, and what the criteria is for pass and fail. And currently, we have the Snell 2025, but if you're in the market, there are still 2020 Snell helmets out there, because not all the manufacturers have finished their R&D and finished submitting their helmets to Snell testing. And we do allow manufacturing of 2020 labeled helmets until, I believe, May of this year. So soon there will be no more 2020 labeled helmets manufactured in any factories. So you may get a good sale. They clean out the old inventory from retail stores and distributors. DOT and ECE are minimum government standards. Every country usually have their minimum standards. Anything that's below those standards are illegal for sale, for use in motorcycling on public roads. But what the difference is how much the standard is set for the helmets to require certain level of protection. So here is the chart that really shows the Snell standard as the gold standard. Let's use it as all the 100% protection that you can get from the best design and use of materials. And then you move down there to look at how much impact protection DOT level helmet and ECE requirements are asking for. So quite considerably less impact protection. This is why we really want everybody to understand. Even a Snell certified helmet is really calling out a certain kind of impact that we consider is feasible by the manufacturer's design and also really sellable from the manufacturer's point of view, because you can always make helmets a lot more protective by increase the bulk of the helmet, packing a lot more energy management materials, but nobody's going to be happy wearing them. So the usage rate is kind of determined by the marketing and designing people's decision at those factories. We can always raise the bar. They will decide, gee, if we design a helmet to meet that standard, nobody's going to use it. So it's a kind of a negotiation between what we want and we pressure the manufacturers to do, and how they see whether there's a market and user demand for a certain type of look or weight, because people assume helmets are safe, and they see a helmet, I put on any helmet, I'm safer. But more informed riders look at different things in the helmet, and some of these decisions can make a difference. One of them is how much protection is really designed and made into these helmets. And you can't really make that determination by looking at a helmet. Even just feel it, how heavy it is, or it has this and that design, or their technical detail explanation on it is really what you can get. But our dummies tell maybe a different story. And I did bring a helmet cut in half here for everybody to take a good look and feel what the foam inside feels like and what the shell outside look like. Basically, all protective helmets have a hard shell, usually fiberglass, carbon fiber. Some are hard plastic. And the inside is the EPS, expanded polystyrene foam, that works well to absorb the impact energy involved in a crash. And you can see from here is the collapsed foam liner inside. These are one-time use device. They are not like football helmets that you have a tackle and block and hit on the head and you turn around without changing a helmet, have another go of 10 yards. Okay, this is like tissue. You blow it once and throw it away because the foam is packed with thousands of little beads, plastic beads that's like popcorn, popped by heat, controlled heat. So it reaches certain density and then molded into the liner shape, just like another mold is going to mold it into a coffee cup. Okay, so you can see the beads in the cutout. And when the crash happened, the head suddenly is moving inside the helmet, really crushing the liner between the head and the external impact site, either a guardrail or a curb, pavement, a tree, anything that stopped the head moving on the outside of the shell. And the liner really get collapsed by the head, keeps moving inside. So the liner is really the working horse for the helmet to do its work, protecting your head by crushing itself. Remember our high school physics class, energy constants? Energy is always going to be there. It just goes somewhere else. Either you have it from moving into a different position, make things move, or you have heat turned into electricity, or electricity turned into heat. But in this crash scenario, the momentum, the velocity involved in this crash is a sudden change of velocity. So all that energy in that sudden change of velocity has to go somewhere. And if the helmet is on the head, secured with good design, that energy goes into the destruction of the helmet itself. It takes energy to destroy the helmet. So we want the energy to do the job of destroying the helmet, not our brain cells or our scalp or skin. So basically, that's how helmet works. It really helps the brain and the head to come into a more gentler stop in this sudden transition from a high-speed velocity to the final stop. Is the transition, the sudden stop, that hurts us, not really how fast you're going. The cruising speed of the motorcyclist matter, but not really. It's really from where you fall, usually less than 8 feet high, to the ground, and how suddenly the head stops inside the skull. The brain gets shaken. And if the foam is in there, the shell spread the impact, then the head and the brain inside has, like a good driver, like what a helmet can do, tap on the brake a few times, takes just a little bit more time to come to a full stop. So the content inside the car, in this case is our brain inside the head, has a little bit more time to come to a gradual, more gentle stop. hopefully within the tolerance of our natural body ability to not get injured by the brain tissue itself be distorted, or the blood vessel inside get snapped in a more violent crash within the skull. So for more information, there's a Snell number to call, and we have our website, has a lot of information, and I also have a Facebook that sometimes I post some information, such as a new standard is out, effective October. And my last word is helmet is effective in preventing injury and fatality. Wear helmet. Wear any helmet is better than no helmet, especially in the state that does not require helmet use, because it does make a difference on the outcome of a crash when our luck and our skill in riding just didn't work in some situations. And once we have the safety gear on, enjoy the ride, because we have done everything to really reduce the risk involved in this fun activity. And even the best helmet, which is a Snell certified helmet in the whole world, may not really provide all the safety prevention that's needed in some cases. And so that's why we have all the other experts here, the training that we need that can also make a difference. So I hope everybody learn from each other here and use all the information you learn here to share it with all the community members out there, because every life saved is what matters here. Thank you.